Ladies and gentlemen, I owe you all an apology. Welcome to episode 40 of Monorail Memoirs. A couple of weeks ago, you'll notice a short went up, and it was regarding a toaster in Dinosaur, the ride that's now closed. I didn't have a clue what Lauren was talking about. I still don't, if I'm honest, but she has since shown me evidence about it being the inspiration of the inside of a toaster. I genuinely am still completely shocked. I don't know where to go from here, but allow me to introduce the episode nevertheless. Today, we are talking about legendary Disney park fails. Something I want to start with, actually. It will not surprise you all to know that we film these a little bit in advance. We don't film them the same day and send them out. As I'm speaking right now, as you, the viewer, are watching, I'm actually at Hilton Head DVC Resort in South Carolina. You'll be getting plenty of videos and content out of that one, believe me. I was gonna run a marathon whilst I was down there, but it's Valentine's weekend. And I think I'll be shot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think I would be a dead man walking. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, welcome to the episode, Lauren. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Apart from being confused about a toaster. Stitch's Great Escape then. Stitch's Great Escape, what was it? It was a ride in Tomorrowland that is now sat vacant for quite a few years. It replaced the extraterrestrial alien encounter. It was a scary ride. The idea was that Stitch's Great Escape was going to paint over it and make it a little bit more child friendly. Lauren, how would you describe the execution of Stitch's Great Escape?
Clunky, very just not Disney.
We're going to get you a thesaurus because the best we got there was clunky and very not Disney.
Yeah,
Keep going though.
but you'll know what I mean. It just was not Disney. It felt like it was a rip-off of Disney, essentially. You could tell it was an overlay of a pre-existing attraction. And I hate it when they do that. I hate it when, you can kind of feel like, oh, this wasn't meant to be here.
For those who don't know, you sat in a circle. There were sort of three rows of chairs, again, in a circular format around a central column. Stitch appeared in the central column, and the idea is that he is the prisoner, of course, he's the experiment, and then he starts to turn the lights out, starts to escape, hence Stitch's Great Escape. In doing so, you would have jokes like the harness that you were in would go down as he jumped on you, but there was also some pretty unpleasant humor. There was, farts that were turned into it was supposed to smell like hot dogs, and it was all just a little bit horrible. And if I'm honest, the story didn't make any sense at all. It was very weak. I think from the beginning that ride was doomed.
Absolutely. And it was just very, you could tell even like that it was very plasticky. It just didn't feel like it had that Disney quality to it. They put so much time and effort into all these amazing attractions, and then they just slap that in the middle of Tomorrowland, and it's just like, where?
It didn't work. It didn't work. And I understand the idea was you took a ride that was seen as being too focused towards adults in Alien Encounter. You downplay it a bit whilst not really changing much in terms of the mechanics to it. The ride functioned the same, even if some of the props were different. So I understand the idea, but it wasn't Disney humor. It was a little bit, it was just poorly done. I think, if I'm honest, in terms of Walt Disney World, there's a different conversation with Disneyland, but Walt Disney World, it is the best example of the biggest mistake they made in terms of a ride failure. We will discuss some other ones. I do just want to park for a second over in California, in Disney's California Adventure, Superstar Limo. Now, we know that this is mainly a Walt Disney World one, but Superstar Limo was this idea that you were being chased by the paparazzi and you had to get through Hollywood. Unfortunately, during the construction of that ride, Princess Diana died in a car crash in France, being chased by the paparazzi. So Disney tamed it down, and it meant that it didn't work. It was like a cheap. DCA was way over budget, but it was a very cheap looking set. It was very dated celebrity humor. It didn't work. But in terms of Disney, Lauren, Walt Disney World, do you have any others that you consider to be a legendary Disney park fail? I have a list.
Oh, go on, start off with your list, and I'll
everything in DinoLand USA that wasn't dinosaur. I'm being deadly serious.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. The Triceratops spin, absolutely just
rib breaker.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, that was Primeval World.
It was.
Triceratops Spin was the Dumbo ride.
Yep.
I know you.
Aladdin flying carpets. Yep.
Yeah, just that exact same kind of thing, and the attractions as well. You know, the fairground ride,
the carnival attractions.
Yeah, carnival attractions. I didn't understand them whatsoever.
Okay, so let's park for a second. That it made no sense to have a carnival style attraction based off dinosaurs in Animal Kingdom. No sense at all.
No.
When you know that they were running out of money and they needed to buy off the shelf, already exposing a variety of theme parks throughout the world, it was a cheap and easy addition to do. I think the whole thing was terrible. There was no story, there was no theming. It was fundamentally un-Disney, and I actually think it contributed to the fact that Animal Kingdom just didn't have an identity in the early part of the 2000s. People thought it was a zoo, and as such, it was a half-day park. It's not a zoo, but it also wasn't a theme park. So I would say the entire DinoLand USA corner of Animal Kingdom, minus Dinosaur with the toaster.
Yeah, definitely. I think another one's kind of popped into my mind, and that was the American Idol experience.
Oh, go on. What was that?
So it was in the I can't remember what the theatre's called, but Frozen's there now. The Frozen sing along.
It was in MGM, wasn't it? Then became Hollywood Studios.
And you basically just kind of auditioned to be on the Disney version of American Idol, and you went round with a badge saying I've been discovered, and just random people in the park just used to sing to these judges, and it was just very cringy and very weird. I have seen some videos of people who've been through the experience, and they said that it was a task. It was a real full-on thing, and it took all day. And I don't know if I would be paying that amount of money to go into a Disney park, to sit in a room in a little box, recording a little song. Why would you do that when you can be sat on Tower of Terror?
I completely agree, and I think that was a massive and very strange misstep. But that was also we talk about identity crisis for Animal Kingdom. That was part of the identity crisis for Hollywood Studios, because when it was MGM Studios and the idea of a functioning real world movie and TV set, as that transition towards just being appreciative of how movies were made to transition again to now Hollywood Studios, you had these weird inject things like American Idol, which it's not Disney related at all.
No.
Although I wonder if it was owned by ABC, which is owned by Disney, but nevertheless, that could be true. It still doesn't really make sense. I actually think one of the other ones that I'd like to sort of hear me out. I think Galaxy's Edge is a failure because we were promised the Earth. We were promised droids wandering around that you could interact with. We were promised that depending on how well you did on Smuggler's Run, different cast members would interact with you differently. The idea being that you could move to the light side of the dark side of the Force. None of that happened, and they'll put it down to COVID and how that changed everything. But none of that ever happened. So I think that is a failure in the sense that we were sold a dream.
Yeah.
And the dream never arrived.
Yeah, it just didn't deliver. You're totally right. I do remember that all coming out, saying how it would be something massively monumental, that, nothing like this has ever happened before, and all the cast members will be like these citizens of this place in a far off galaxy. And even myself, who, as you all know, I do not know the first thing about Star Wars, I was excited about it. I wanted to know which side of the Force I was going to be on, and all that sort of stuff. So I couldn't imagine what a real fan felt like when they were thinking, flipping heck, I'm going to be able to do this. And I think that ties in as well to the hotel.
The Galaxy, I can't even remember what it was called. Galaxy's Star Cruiser. It's the Star Cruiser.
That was it. Yeah,
that didn't work.
No, it was thousands and thousands of pounds a night, wasn't it?
Yeah, the idea was that it was going to be a fully immersive experience, and if you didn't want to have anything to do with it, you could just treat it as a normal hotel. If you wanted to engage with the characters, you want to engage with the story narrative on board, because you couldn't just book random days. You had to book cruises for certain parts. I don't blame Disney for trying that, because I think they're just trying to push the envelope of entertainment. but it was a pretty poor failure, almost straight out the gate. Actually, it was pretty bad. One of the ones that I've been thinking, and on my list here that I've wrote down earlier, I actually think, and this is slightly minor, but Mission Space, specifically, how nobody could handle it at first, and people were throwing it left, right, and Chelsea. There was unfortunately that one story of a child who with an undiagnosed heart condition who didn't make it off the ride. That sort of thing never helps, and so I think is it a failure? I don't know if it's a failure overall, but it was not smooth sailing for what was quite an expensive attraction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't really see wait times of over sort of 20-30 minutes.
If that, I don't know if I'll do it if it's more than 10. You spend 10 minutes walking onto the ride waiting for the pre-show to start. That's what takes longer.
The queue is really expansive as well. So it suggests that they were expecting a large crowd. You know, when they make these queues that are permanent and you're just kind of crisscrossing through these back and forth, you're thinking, this isn't attracting the amount of traffic that they were expecting here.
No. And don't get me wrong, Disney doesn't often have big misses. It has some misses, but it doesn't often have big misses. One thing, it was a colleague of mine who just come back from a trip with his wife and 2 children. It was the first time he'd ever been to any Disney park. The children are sort of 5 and 7 or something, quite young. Let's say the Animal Kingdom Lodge, excellent choice. Savannah View Room, excellent choice. But he said to me today that because of how much there is to do, because of things like the app and the lightning lanes and all that good stuff, he said, I didn't know anything about Disney when going there. And it is so complex to get your head around. He said, only after being there for a week, when the holiday ended, did they actually nail down the things they wanted to do. Which by that point it's too late. So of course Disney's are going to complain because they're going to have to go back again at some point. But that, I think Disney has become incredibly complex for 2 sets of people. One, if you're brand new and you show no previous interest in anything Disney related or Walt Disney World. And secondly, if you're not a fan of technology, you're really going to struggle the accessibility portion between getting your tickets on your phone, between understanding the ride queues, between understanding the lightning lanes, dining reservations, hotel key reservation, all of this stuff. I think Disney is almost deliberately trying to put people in a position where, because they don't know what they need to do, they are going to have to come back and do it again.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me really sad because that was not Walt's vision. Walt's vision was for it to be inclusive of everybody. And I definitely feel like we're moving away from that. And they'll argue it's technology, it's progressive, who doesn't have a phone nowadays, yada, yada, yada. I get that. But without being too cringe, I'm just thinking, like, are we really losing sight of what it was all started with? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe. One of the things I would consider, though, is that Disney went through a period of obscurity, especially in the 80s, before Michael Eisner came in, because everything was, what would Walt do?
Yeah.
Walt wasn't around. And to stick in that old mindset, that's when Disney becomes a museum, which is specifically what he said it should never become.
Yeah.
You have to keep moving. And yes, they've gone too far with it. Yes, the paywalls behind things like lightning lanes and fast passes used to be free. We covered that in a much older episode when one of the first episodes we did start in this podcast. It is a disappointing turn to see how the threat of corporate raiders has got their fingers in all the Disney pies to make sure that the turnover and the profit seems to be the priority now, no longer the guest experience. But to draw stumps, I still maintain the biggest Disney park failure is Stitch's Great Escape.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Happy days. And on that lovely conclusion, a consensus conclusion, we thank you all very much for attending. We do have a merch store out now, believe it or not. Insane to say something like that, but it's going to be in the description below. Please give it a check out if you wish. Don't worry, this is by no means price gouging. We're making about $1 per item, so it's hardly the biggest business venture in the world. But thank you very much for coming along with this journey. I hope you enjoy my Disney Hilton Head content that's probably out now elsewhere in the channel. But until next time, thank you very much for attending, and please stand clear of the doors. Bye, everybody.
Bye.